In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold. The Abracast. Occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
Hey everybody, I'm John Towers. Welcome to the Wednesday Book Club. We're talking about Nietzsche's Thus Spake Zarathustra. And this is like part fucking like 16, I think, or something. So, not including the lessons of episodes. I gotta get caught up on those. Anyhow, yeah, it's gonna be a little bit different this evening, only because usually we tackle like 3 or 4 or 5 speeches from the Spake Zarathustra, but it just turned out that the way it worked out is the speech on old and new tablets is fairly long, but it's not long for like our normal, like the page count we get through. So this episode might be a little bit shorter, but it's all going to be talking about one speech on old and new tablets. So I feel like we're just going to get into this. If you're playing along at home, grab your vessel of the art, please fill it with your formula for your weapon of mass distraction, whatever your formula is. It could be like, I don't know, 1 part Jack Daniels, 10 parts Diet Pepsi. Whatever it is. Mine, I'm drinking a gin jihad, as per usual, this evening. But yeah, I want to get into this. So charge your vessel and raise it to the sky, and join me with thanking my Subscribe Star and Patreon people out there. Thank you guys. And I'll see you in the emergency room. On old and new tablets. Here I sit and wait, surrounded by broken old tablets and new tablets, half covered with writing. It's hard to find a good tablet. I mean, let's just put that out there. I have 4 busted ass tablets. I got 1 that's working right now at this point in time. I gotta just get rid of these other ones. Okay, sorry about that. When will my hour come? The hour of my going down and going under. For I want to go among men once more. For that I am waiting now. For first the signs must come to me that my hour has come. The laughing lion with the flock of doves. Meanwhile, I talk to myself as one who has time. Nobody tells me anything new, so I tell myself. When I came to men, I found them sitting on an old conceit, the conceit that they have long known what good and evil for men. All talk of virtue seemed an old and weary matter to man, and whoever wanted to sleep well still talked of good and evil before going to sleep. I disturbed this sleepiness when I taught. What is good and evil no one knows yet. And it be he who creates He, however, creates man's goal and gives the earth its meaning and its future. That anything at all is good and evil. That is his creation. So I'm wrestling with this in my head. I'm too far into it. Perhaps I've had too many cocktails already this evening to record, but so Jordan Peterson talks about Nietzsche. He's a fan, follower. I don't know what the correct terminology is. He respects Nietzsche. And Jordan Peterson says that when Nietzsche said that God is dead, it's like atheists kind of misquote it. They say he wasn't like celebrating that God is dead. The whole point of Nietzsche's writing, or one of the points in Nietzsche's writing, was that Nietzsche was like, okay, well, he's looking into, he's predicted, like, I make a lot of hay that he's predicted SJW culture, but that's beyond the pale. What Nietzsche was doing is he was actually predicting communism. He was predicting the Bolsheviks and all of this. So when I laugh and I'm like, he's predicting social justice warriors, he's predicting, the first version of social justice warriorism, I guess, or something like that. Anyhow, so what he was looking at, and he was looking into the future at, was like, look, we're going to be coming into an age where the morality that the church gives us is going away, and that I think was communism that he was looking at. So only now I could look back and say he was predicting social justice warriors and NPCs and all of this kind of stuff, because they're like derived out of all that nonsense, right? Nazism and all this, they're derived from all of that. So according to Dr. Jordan Peterson, Professor Jordan Peterson, whatever, according to Peterson, Nietzsche was like, okay, well, let's knock the morality of Christianity out of society and see what stands. And this, I think it's funny in a way, because this also is one of the reasons that Crowley kind of latched on to Nietzsche as well, because Crowley, especially like when you get into, we just did like the Book of the Law. We revisited the Book of the Law, and we revisited Libers 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going back into 4 now, Liber 4. And especially in Liber 4, there's a lot of stuff where he's talking about being how traditional morality it's not valid anymore. And I think that's all very interesting. Crowley points to Nietzsche as a prophet of an early prophet of Thelema. And so this opening part here of, part 2 of the Old and New Tablet, where he's talking about what is good and evil. Man creates what good and evil is, the goal, and gives the earth its meaning and its future, that everything at all is good and evil. That is his creation. I think that's pretty interesting. And I made them overthrow their old academic chairs and wherever that old conceit had set. And I bade them laugh at their great masters of virtue and saints and poets and world redeemers. And I bade them laugh at their gloomy sages, and at whoever had at any time sat on the tree of life like a black scarecrow I sat down by their great tomb road among cadavers and vultures, and I laughed at their past and its rotting, decaying glory. Verily, like preachers of repentance and fools, I raised a hue and cried of wrath over that among them is great and small, and that their best is still so small, and that their greatest evil too is still so small. At that I laughed. My wise longing cried and laughed thus out of me, born in the mountains, verily a wild wisdom, my great broad-winged longing. And often it swept me away and up and far in the middle of my laughter, and I flew quivering an arrow. Although sun-drunken delight away into distant futures, which no dream had yet seen, into hotter souls than artists ever dreamed of, where gods in their dances are ashamed of all clothes, to speak in parables and to limp and stammer like poets, and verily I am ashamed that I must still be a poet. While all becoming seemed to me the dance of gods and prankishness of gods, and the worlds seemed free and frolicsome, and if fleeing back to itself an eternal fleeing and seeking each other again of many gods, and happy controverting of each other, conversing again with each other, and converging again of many gods, where all time seemed to me a happy mockery of monuments, where necessity was freedom itself, playing happy with the sting of freedom, where I also found again my old devil and arch enemy, the spirit of gravity, and all that he created, constraint, statute, necessity, and consequences of purpose, and will, and good, and evil. For must there not be that over which one dances and dances away, for the sake of the light and the lightest? Must there not be moles and grave dwarfs? 3. There it was, too, I picked up the word Overman. By the way, that man is something that must be overcome. That man is a bridge and no end, proclaiming himself blessed in views of his noon and evening, as the way to new dawns, as Zarathustra's word of the great noon, and whatever else I hung up over man, like the last crimson light of evening. Verily, I also let them see new stars, along with new nights and over clouds. And day and night I still spread out as a colorful tent, and I taught them all my creating and striving to create and to carry together into one. What is man is fragment and riddle and dreadful accident, as creator and guesser of riddles and redeemer of accidents. I taught them to work on the future, and to redeem with their creation all that has been, to redeem what is past in man, and to recreate all it was, until the will says, thus I willed it, thus I shall will it. This I call redemption, and this alone I taught them to call redemption. Now I wait for my own redemption, that I may go to them for the last time, for I want to go to men once more. Under their eyes I want to go under. Dying, I want to give them my richest gift. From the sun I learned this. When he goes down over rich, he pours gold into the sea out of inexhaustible riches, so that even the poorest fisherman still rows with golden oars. For this I once saw, and I did not tire of my tears as I watched it. Like the sun, Zarathustra too wants to go under, wants to go down. Now he sits here and waits, surrounded by broken old tablets, and the new tablet half covered with writing. 4. Behold, here is a new tablet, but where are my brothers to carry it down with me to the valley, into the hearts of flesh? Thus my great love, my farthest demand it. Do not spare your neighbor. Man is something that must be overcome. There are many ways of overcoming. See to that yourself. But only a jester thinks men can also be skipped over. So this goes right back to the tightrope walker, right? I don't know if that's what he's talking about or if he's prophesizing it. So the way that I'm taking this is that each numbered section of this portion of the text is an old tablet. Like he's like looking at his old writings. So there's no way to tell if he'd already been to the Motley Cow or not. I don't know. But it's clearly an allusion to the tightrope walker and the buffoonist jester jumping over the dude, causing him to fall off the tightrope, right? Overcome yourself even in your neighbor, in a right that you can rob, you should not accept as a gift. What you do, nobody can do to you in turn. Behold, there is no retribution. He who cannot command himself should obey. And many can command themselves, but much is still lacking before they also obey themselves. Five. This is the manner of noble souls. They do not want to have anything for nothing, lest all life, whoever is of the mob, wants to live for nothing. We others, however, to whom life gave itself, we always think about what we might best give in return, and verily, that is a noble speech which says, what life promises us, we ourselves want to keep to life. We should not wish to overjoy where one does not give joy, and one shall not wish to enjoy, for enjoyment and innocence are the most bashful things. Both do not want to be sought. One shall possess them, but rather seek even guilt and suffering. 6. My brothers, the firstlings, is always sacrificed. We, however, are firstlings. All of us bleed at secret sacrificial altars, but of us burn and roast in honor of old idols. What is best in us is still young, that attracts old palates. Our flesh is tender. Our hide is a mere lambskin. How could we fail to attract old idol priests? Even in ourselves, the old idol priest still lives, who roasts what is best in us for his feast. Alas, my brothers, how could firstlings fail to be sacrifices? But thus kind wants it, and I love those who do not want to preserve themselves. Those who are going under I love with my whole love, for they cross over. Man, that seems like a Doors song to me. Am I right? Seven. To be true, only a few are able, and those who are still lack the will, but the good have this ability. Least of all, oh, these good men never speak the truth, for the spirit to be good in this way is a disease. They give in, these good men, they give themselves up, and their heart repeats, and their ground obeys, but whoever heeds commands does not heed himself. Everything that the good call evil must come together so that one truth may be born. Oh, my brothers, are you evil enough for this truth? The audacious, daring, the long mistrust, the cruel, no, the disgust, the cutting into the living. How rarely does all this come together? But from such seed is truth begotten. Alongside the bad conscience, all science has grown so far. Break your lovers of knowledge, the old tablets. 8. When the water is spanned by planks, when bridges and railings leap over the river, verily those are not believed to say everything is in flux. Even the blockheads contradict them. How now, say the blockheads, everything should be in flux. After all, planks and railings are over the river. Whatever is over the river is firm. All the values of things, the bridges, the concepts of all good and evil, all that is firm. But when the hard winter comes, the river animals tammer, and even the most quick-witted learn mistrust. And verily, not only the blockheads then say, does not everything stand still? At bottom, everything stands still. That is truly a winter doctrine. A good thing for sterile times, a fine comfort for hibernators and hearth squatters. At bottom, everything stands still. Against the thawing wind preaches the thawing wind a bull. That is no plowing bull, a raging bull. A destroyer who breaks the ice with wrathful horns. Ice, however, breaks bridges. Oh, my brothers, is not everything in flux now, right now? Have not all railings and bridges fallen into the water? Who could still cling to good and evil? Woe to us, hail to us, the thawing wind blows, thus preach in every street, my brothers. Nine. There is an old illusion which is called good and evil. So far, the wheel of this illusion has revolved around soothsayers and stargazers. Once man believed in soothsayers and stargazers, and therefore believed all is destiny. You ought to, for you must. Then man again mistrusted all soothsayers and stargazers, and therefore believed all is freedom. You can, for you will. Oh, my brothers, so far There have only been illusions about stars in the future, not knowledge. And therefore, there have been only illusions so far, not knowledge about good and evil. 10. Thou shalt not rob, thou shalt not kill. Such words were once called holy, and bent the knee and the head and took off one's shoes before them. But I ask you, where have you ever been better robbers and killers in this world with such holy words? Is there not in all life itself robbing and killing, and that such words were called holy? Was not truth itself killed thereby? Or was it the preaching of death that was called holy, which contradicted and contravened all life? Oh, my brothers, break the old tablets. 11. This is my pity for all that is past. I see how all of it is abandoned to the pleasure, the spirit, the madness of every generation, which comes along and reinterprets all that has been as a bridge to itself. A great despot might come along, a shrewd monster who, according to his pleasure and displeasure, might constrain and strain all of the past until it becomes a bridge to him, a harbinger, a herald, and a cockcrow. This, however, is the other danger and what prompts my further pity. Whoever is of the rabble thinks back as far as the grandfather. With the grandfather, however, time ends. Thus all that is past abandoned, for one day the rabble might become master and drown all time in the shallow waters. In the shallow. Therefore, my brothers, a new nobility is needed to be the adversity of all the rabble and of all that is despotic, and to write anew upon new tablets the word noble. From many we are noble, are needed, and noble men of many kinds. But there may be a nobility, or, as I once said in a parable, precisely this is godlike, that there are gods, but no gods. 12. Oh, my brothers, I dedicate and direct you to a new nobility. You shall become procreators and cultivators and sowers of the future. Verily, not to a nobility that you might buy like shopkeepers, and with shopkeepers' gold, for whatever has its price has little value. Not whence you come shall henceforth constitute your honor, but whither you are going. Your will and your foot, which has a will to go over and beyond yourselves, that shall constitute your new honor. Verily, not that you have served a prince. What do princes matter now? Or that you become a bulwark for what stands, that it might stand fully more firmly. Now that your tribe has become courtly at court, and that you have learned like a flamingo to stand for long hours in a colorful costume in shallow ponds, in the shallows now. Oh, for the ability to stand is meritorious among courtiers, and all courters believe that blessedness after death must comprise permission to sit, nor that a spirit which they call holy lead your ancestors to promised lands which I do not praise, for where the worst of all trees grew. The cross, the land deserves no praise, and verily, wherever this holy spirit leads his knights on all such crusade, gooses aids goats in leading the way, and the contrary and crude sailed foremost. Oh, my brothers, your nobility should not look backwards, but ahead. Exiles shall you be from the father and the forefathers' land. Your children's land shall you love. This love shall be your new nobility. An undiscovered land in the most distant sea, for I bid your sails search, and your children you shall make up for being the children of your fathers. Thus shall you redeem all that is past. This new tablet I place over you. 13. Why live? All is vanity. Living, that is threshing straw. Living, that is consuming oneself in flames without becoming warm. Such antiquarian babbling is still considered a wisdom. It is honored all the more for being old and musty. Mustiness too ennobles. Children might speak thus. They fear the fire because it burned them. There is much childishness in the old books of wisdom, and why should those who always thresh straw be allowed to blaspheme threshing? Such oxen should be muzzled after all. Such men sit down to the table and bring nothing along, not even a good appetite. But then they blaspheme. All is vanity, but eating and drinking well. Oh, my brother, is verily no vain art. Break the old tablets of the never gay. (14) To the clean, all is clean, some people say. But I say unto you, to the mean, all becomes mean. Therefore, the swooners and the head hangers, whose hearts also hang limply, preach. The world itself is a filthy monster. For all these have an unclean spirit, but especially those who have neither rest nor repose, except when they see the world from abaft, the afterworldly. To these I say to their faces, even though it may not sound nice, the world is like a man in having a backside abaft. Whoa. That much is true. There is much filth in the world. That much is true. But that does not make the world itself a filthy monster. We all know that the world is a vampire. There is wisdom in this, that there is much in the world that smells foul. Nausea itself creates wings and water divining powers. Even in the best, there is still something that nauseates, and even in the best, there is something that must be overcome. Oh, brothers, there is much wisdom in this, and there is much filth in the world. Oh man, I'm out. 15. Such maxims I heard piously afterwardly. People speak to their conscience verily, without treachery or falseness. Although there is nothing falser in the whole world, nothing more treacherous. Let the world go its own way. Do not raise one finger against it. Go your own way. Let him who wants to strangle and stab and fleece and flay the people and do not raise one finger against it. Thus will they learn to renounce the world and your own reason. Yourself should stifle and strangle it. For it is a reason of the world. Thus you yourself learn to renounce the world and break, oh my brothers, these old tablets of the pious. Break the maxims of those who slander the world.
Learn more at Abracast.com. Get bonus content and access to the private Abracast workgroup by signing up for the mailing list. Get all that plus many exclusive episodes by supporting the show at Patreon.com or Subscribestar.com.
Part 16. Whoever learns much will unlearn all violent desire. That is whispered today in all the dark lanes. Wisdom makes weary, worthwhile is nothing thou shalt not desire. This is a new tablet I found hanging even in the open marketplaces. Break, oh brother, break this new tablet too. The world weary hung it up, and the preachers of death, and also the jailers, for behold, it is also an exhortation to bondage. Before they learned badly, and the best things not at all, and everything too early, and everything too hastily. Because they ate badly, and therefore they got upset stomachs. For their spirit is an upset stomach, which counsels death. For verily, my brothers, the spirit is a stomach. Life is a well of joy. But for those out of whom an upset stomach speaks, which is the father of melancholy, all wells are poisoned. To gain knowledge is a joy for the lion-willed. But those who have become weary are themselves merely being willed. And all the billows play with them. And this is always the manner of the weak. They get lost on the way, and in the end their weariness still asks, why did we ever pursue any way at all? It is all the same. Their ears appreciate the preaching. Nothing is worthwhile, and you shall not will. Yet this is an exhortation to bondage. Oh, my brothers, like a fresh roaring wind, Zarathustra comes to all who are weary of the way. Many noses he will yet make sneeze through walls too. My free breath blows, and into the prisons and imprisoned spirits to will liberates. For to will is to create. Thus I teach, and you shall learn solely in order to create. And you shall first learn from me how to learn, and to learn well. He that has ears to hear, let him hear. "17. There stands the bark. Over there, perhaps, the great nothing lies. But who would embark on this, perhaps? No one of you wants to embark on the bark of death. When they do, you want to be world weary. World weary. And when you are not even removed from earth, lusting after the earth, I have always found you in love, even with your own earth weariness. Not for nothing is your lip hanging. A little earthly wish still sits on it, and in your eyes does not a little cloud of unforgotten earthly joy float there? There are many good inventions on earth, some useful and some pleasing. For their sake, the earth is to be loved. There is such a variety of well-invented things that the earth is like the breasts of a woman, useful as well as pleasing. But you who are world weary, you who are earth lazy, you should be lashed with switches, with lashes. One should make your legs sprightly again. For when you are not invalids and decrepit wretches of whom the earth is weary, you are shrewd sloths or sweet-toothed sneaky pleasure cats. And if you do not want to run again with pleasure, then you should pass away to the incurable. One should not try to be a physician. Thus Zarathustra teaches, so you shall pass away. But it takes more courage to make an end than to make a new verse. All physicians and poets know that. "18. Oh, my brothers, there are tablets created by weariness and tablets created by rotting sloth. But though they speak alike, they must be understood differently. Behold, this man languishing here. He is but one span from his goal. But out of weariness he has definitely laid down in the dust, this courageous man. Out of weariness he yawns at the way and the earth and the goal and himself. Not one step further will he go, this courageous man. Now the sun glows on him, and the dog licks his sweat, but he lies there in his defiance, and would sooner die of thirst. Die of thirst, one span away from his goal. Verily, you will yet have to drag him by the hair into heaven, this hero. Better yet, let him lie where he lay down, and let sleep, the comforter, come to him, cooling, rushing rain. Let him lie till he wakens by himself, till he renounces by himself all weariness and whatever weariness taught through him. Only, my brothers, drive the dogs away from him, the lazy creepers, and all the ravenous vermin, and all the raving vermin of the educated who feasts on every hero's sweat. 19. I draw circles around me and sacred boundaries. Fewer and fewer men climb with me on ever higher mountains, and I am building a mountain range out of ever more sacred mountains. But wherever you may climb with me, O brothers, see to it that no parasite climbs with you. Parasites, creeping, cringing worms, which would batten on our secret sores. And this is their art. They find where climbing souls are weary, in your grief, in your discouragement, in your tender parts. They build their nauseating nests where the strong are weak and the noble all too soft. There they build their nauseating nests. The parasites live where the great have little secret sores. What is the highest species of all being? And what is the lowest? The parasite is the lowest species. But whoever is of the highest species will nourish the most parasites. For the soul that has the longest ladder and reaches down deepest, how should the more parasites not sit on that? The most comprehensive soul, which can run and stray and roam farthest within itself, the most necessary soul, which out of sheer joy plunges itself into chance, the soul which having been being dives into becoming, and the soul which has, he wants to want and will, and the soul which flees itself to catch up with itself in the widest circle, and the wisest soul which folly exhorts most sweetly, the soul which loves itself most, in which all things have their sweep and counter sweep, the ebb and the flow. Oh, how should the highest soul not have the worst parasites? Parasite lady, parasite eyes. $20. Oh, my brothers, am I cruel, but I say what is falling. We should still push. Everything today falls and decays. Who would check it? But I even want to push it. Do you know the voluptuous delight which rolls stones into steep depths? These human beings of today, look at them and how they roll into my depth. I am a prelude of better players. Oh, my brothers, a precedent. You need to follow my precedent. And he whom you cannot teach to fly, teach to fall faster. 21. I love the valiant, but it is not enough to wield a broadsword. One must also know against whom, and often there is more valor when one refrains and passes by in order to save oneself for the worthier enemy. I think what he's saying here is, like the great philosopher Kenny Rogers once told us, you got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and know when to walk away, and know when to run. Actually, Kenny Rogers didn't write that song. It was written by a guy named, I think, Rick Schill, Dick Scheel, something like that. I don't know, like Johnny Cash covered it, like a bunch of people covered it. I grew up thinking fucking Kenny Rogers did it. Why am I talking about The Gambler? Okay. You shall have only enemies who are to be hated, but not enemies to be despised. You must be proud of your enemy. Thus I taught you once before. For the worthier enemy, O my friends, you shall save yourself. Therefore, you must pass by much, especially much rabble, who raises a din in your ears about the people and about peoples. Keep your eyes undefiled by their pro and con. There is much justice and much injustice, and whoever looks on becomes angry. Citing and smiting here become one. Therefore go away into the woods and lay on your sword to sleep. Go your own ways. Like the great philosopher Stevie Nicks once said. Then let the people and the peoples go their dark ways, verily, on which not a single hope flashes anymore. Let the shopkeeper rule, where all that still glitters is shopkeeper's gold. The time of kings is past, and what calls itself a people today deserves no kings. Look how these people are now like shopkeepers. They pick up the smallest advantages from any rubbish. They lie around lurking and spy around smirking to call that being good neighbors. Oh, blessed remote time when people would say to itself, I want to be master over peoples, for my brothers. The best should rule, and the best also want to rule. And where the doctrine is different, there the best is lacking. 22. If those got free bread, alas, for what would they clamor their sustenance? That is what sustains their attention, and it should be harder for them. They are beasts of prey, and their work there is still an element of preying, and their earning still an element of overreaching. There, it should be hard for them. Thus, they should become better beasts of prey, subtler, more prudent, more human. For man is the best beast of prey. Man has already robbed all the beasts of their virtues, for of all beasts, man has had the hardest time. Only the birds are still over and above him. And if man were to learn to fly, woe, to what heights would this rapaciousness fly? To the moon! 23. Thus, I want man and woman, the one fit for war, the other fit to give birth, but both fit to dance with head and limbs. And we should consider every day lost on which we have not danced at least once. Aww. We should call every truth false which is not accompanied by at least one laugh. 24. Your wedlock. See to it that it not be a bad lock. If you lock it too quickly, there follows wedlock breaking adultery. And better even such wedlock breaking than wedlock picking. Wedlock tricking. Thus said a woman to me, indeed, I committed adultery and broke my wedlock. But first, my wedlock broke me. The worst among the vengeful, I always found to be ill-matched. They would make all the world pay for it that they no longer live singly. Therefore, I would have those who are honest to say to each other, we love each other. Let us see to it that we remain in love, or shall our promise be a mistake? Give us probation and a little marriage, so that we may see whether we are fit for a big marriage. It is a big thing always to be two. Thus, I counsel all who are honest. And what would my love for the Overman and for all who shall yet come amount to if I counseled and spoke differently? Not merely to reproduce, but to produce something higher towards that, my brother, the garden of marriage should help you. All right, a little relationship advice from Zarathustra. 25. Whoever has gained wisdom concerning ancient origins will eventually look for wells for the future and for new origins. Oh, my brothers, it will not be overlong before new peoples originate in new wells, roar down into new depths, for earthquakes bury many wells and leave many languishing. But they also bring to light inner powers and secrets. Earthquakes reveal new wells. In earthquakes that strike ancient peoples, and new wells break open. And whoever shouts, "Behold a well for many," are thirsty. A heart for many who are longing, a will for many instruments. Around that man there will gather a people. That is many treers. Who can command, who must obey. That is tired out there. Alas, with what long trials and surmises and unpleasant surprises and learning and retrials. Human society is a trial, thus I teach it. A long trial. And what it tries to find is the commander. A trial, oh, my brothers, and not a contract. Break this word of the soft-hearted and the half and half. 26. O brothers who represent the greatest danger for all man's future, it is not the good and the just in as much as they say and feel in their hearts. We already know what is good and just. We have it too. Woe unto those who still seek here. And whatever harm the evil may do, the harm done by the good is the most harmful harm. And whatever harm those do who slander the world, the harm done by the good is the most harmful harm. Oh, my brothers, one man once saw into the hearts of the good and the just and said, "They are the Pharisees," but he was not understood. The good and the just themselves were not permitted to understand him. The spirit is imprisoned in their good conscience. The stupidity of the good is unfathomably shrewd. This, however, is the truth. The good must be Pharisees. They have no choice. The good must crucify him who invents his own virtue, and that is the truth. The second one, however, is to discover their land. The land, heart, and soil of the good and the just was he who asked, whom did they hate most? The Creator they hate most. He breaks the tablets of old values, and he is a breaker. And they call him law breaker, for the good are unable to create. They are always the beginning of the end, and they crucify him who writes new values on new tablets, and they sacrifice the future to themselves, and they crucify all man's future. The good have always been the beginning of the end. 27. Oh, my brothers, have you really understood this word? And what I once said concerning the last man, who represents the greatest danger of all of men's future. Is it not good? Not the just? Break the good and the just. Oh, my brothers, have you really understood this word? 28. You flee from me, you are frightened, you tremble at this word. Oh, my brothers, when I bade you to break the good and the tablets of the good, only then did I embark man on his high sea. And only now does there come to him the great fright, the great looking around, the great sickness, the great nausea, the great seasickness. false coasts and false assurances the good have taught you, and the lies of the good. You were hatched and huddled. Everything has been made fraudulent and has been twisted through and through by the good. But he who discovers the land man also discovers the land's man's future. Now you shall be seafarers, valiant and patient, and walk upright betimes. Oh, my brothers, learn to walk upright. The sea is raging, and many want to right themselves against with your help. The sea is raging, and everything is in the sea. Well then, old sea dogs, what of your fatherland? Our helm steers us towards our children's land out there. Stormier than the sea, storms our great longing. 29. This is a question I ask myself every morning. Section 29. Why so hard? The kitchen coal once said to the diamond, after all, are we not close kin? Why so soft, O my brothers? Thus I ask you. Are you not, after all, my brothers, and why so soft and pliant and yielding? Why is there also much denial, self-denial in your hearts, so little destiny in your eyes? And what if you do not want to be destinies and inexorable ones? How can you triumph with me? And if your hardness does not wish to flash and to cut through, how can you one day create with me? For creators are hard, and it must seem blessedness to you to impress your hand on a millennia as on wax, blessedness to write on the will of millennia as on bronze, harder than bronze, nobler than bronze, and only the noblest is altogether hard. This new tablet, O brothers, I place over you. Become hard. I wish I didn't open that up with a dick joke. 30. This is the last piece right here. O thou, my will, thou cessations of all need, on my own necessity, keep me from all small victories. A destination of my soul, which I call destiny. Thou in me, over me, keep me and save me for a great destiny. And thy last greatness, my will, save up for thy last feat, that thou mayest be inexorable in the victory. Alas, who was not vanquished in his victory. Alas, those eye would not darken in his drunken twilight. I will drink that. May your eye darken in the drunken twilight. Okay, alas, whose foot would not reel in victory and forget how to stand, that I may one day be ready and ripe in the great noon, as ready and ripe as glowing bronze, clouds pregnant with lightning and swelling milk udders, ready for myself and my most hidden will. A bow lusting for an arrow lusting for its star, a star ready and ripe in its noon, glowing, pierced, enraptured by annihilating sun arrows, a sun itself, an inexorable solar will, ready to annihilate in victory. O will, cessation of all need, of my own necessity, save me for a great victory. Thus spoke Zarathustra. All right, guys. I've been John Towers. This has been the Abracast. Hey, if you're thinking about, please consider supporting the show. You can hit the website and find the different degrees. You decide your own level of involvement. Also, you can sign into the mailing list and all that stuff. Yada, yada, yada. Hilla will tell you all about it.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Send an email or visit us on social media to let us know what you think about this topic. And please remember to leave a 5-star rate and review.